All major wars in Percy Jackson explained. The Titanomachy, the war that created the world. The Titanomachy began as a rebellion. The ruling power at the time was Kronos, leader of the Titans. He had taken control after overthrowing his own father, but ruled through fear, control, and paranoia. To prevent being overthrown himself, he swallowed his children at birth. The war started when his youngest son, Zeus, survived. With the help of his siblings Poseidon and Hades, Zeus led a rebellion against Kronos and the Titans. The conflict was not evenly matched at first. The Titans were older, more powerful, and already in control. The turning point came when Zeus freed the Cyclops and the Hundred-Handed Ones, ancient beings imprisoned by Kronos. In return, the Cyclops forged powerful weapons that shifted the balance of the war. Zeus was given the Master Bolt, Poseidon received the Trident, and Hades gained the Helm of Darkness, each one amplifying their abilities and allowing them to directly challenge the Titans. The war lasted years and devastated the world. Mountains were destroyed, oceans were reshaped, and entire regions were left in ruin. Eventually, Zeus and his allies defeated Kronos, and the remaining Titans were either destroyed or imprisoned in Tartarus. The outcome of the Titanomachy created the current order of the world. Zeus became ruler of the sky, Poseidon took control of the sea, and Hades ruled the underworld. This division of power established the Olympian gods as the dominant force. This war matters because it explains everything that follows. Kronos was not permanently gone. He was imprisoned, which meant the threat of his return never disappeared. But defeating the Titans didn't make the gods safe. It proved something far more dangerous, that they could be overthrown. The first giant war, the war that exposed the gods. The first giant war began as a response to the Titanomachy. After the Titans were defeated, the Earth itself, personified as Gaia, created a new threat. The giants were born specifically to challenge the Olympian gods, designed with one critical advantage. Unlike the Titans, they could not be defeated by gods alone. This rule changed the nature of war entirely. For the first time, the gods were not enough on their own. Each giant was created to counter a specific Olympian. They were not just powerful, they were targeted weapons. One of the most important among them was Alcyoneus, who could not be killed within his homeland, making him effectively immortal under the right conditions. The conflict forced the gods into an unfamiliar position. They needed help. This is where demigods became essential. By combining the strength of gods with the adaptability of demigods, the Olympians were able to overcome the giants' advantage. The war itself was brutal but shorter than the Titanomachy. Once the weakness of the giants was understood, they were systematically defeated through cooperation. The Olympians and their demigod allies worked together to eliminate them, preventing Gaia's plan from fully succeeding. The outcome of the first giant war proved something the Titanomachy never did. The gods were not invincible. They could be countered, and without demigods, they could lose. This war matters because it introduces a new rule that defines every future conflict. Power alone is not enough. Victory now depends on alliances, coordination, and the involvement of demigods. But that solution came with a risk. Because if demigods were powerful enough to save the gods, they were powerful enough to turn against them. The Second Titan War, the war that nearly ended Olympus. The Second Titan War began with a slow resurgence. Kronos was not destroyed after the Titanomachy. He was scattered, weakened, and imprisoned in Tartarus. Over time, he began to reform, gathering strength through followers, manipulation, and the growing resentment of demigods who felt abandoned by the gods. The key to his return was Luke Castellan. As the son of Hermes, Luke had first-hand experience of the gods' neglect. Kronos used that anger to turn him into a host, allowing the Titan to regain physical form inside a demigod body. This changed the scale of the war. It was no longer Titans versus gods. It became a coordinated uprising involving monsters, Titans, and demigods fighting against Olympus from within. The conflict built toward a single decisive event. The Battle of Manhattan, Olympus, which exists above New York, became the primary target. If the city fell, the seat of the gods would fall with it. Percy Jackson led the defense alongside other demigods from Camp Half-Blood. They held strategic positions across the city, delaying Kronos' advance while the Olympian gods were occupied battling the monster Typhon across the country. This left the fate of Olympus in the hands of demigods alone. The battle was prolonged and costly. Defenses were broken, key fighters were lost, and Kronos came close to reaching Olympus. The turning point came from within. Luke Castellan resisted Kronos' control long enough to take his own life, destroying the Titan's physical form and ending his return. The outcome forced change. The gods began claiming their children, acknowledged the minor gods, and addressed the neglect that had allowed Kronos to rise in the first place. The war ended, but the weakness it exposed remained. Because the next threat was not trying to take Olympus, it was trying to erase everything. The Second Giant War, the war that threatened the world. The Second Giant War began with the awakening of Gaia. Unlike the First Giant War, this was not a reaction, it was a planned escalation. Gaia had learned from the past. The Titans had failed. The Giants had failed. This time, she combined both strategies while targeting the gods at their weakest point. The Olympians were divided. The Greek and Roman aspects of the gods began to conflict, which destabilized both sides. This split extended to their demigods. Camp Half-Blood and Camp Jupiter operated separately, with no coordination, different traditions, and growing mistrust. Gaia used this division to her advantage. The giants returned stronger and more specialized than before. Each one was still designed to counter a specific god, but now they operated as part of a larger strategy. They were not just fighting to win battles, they were preparing for Gaia's full awakening, which would allow her to rise and destroy the world itself. The conflict forced an uneasy alliance. Greek and Roman demigods were brought together, combining their strengths for the first time. This created a unified force capable of challenging the giants, but the alliance was unstable. Miscommunication, cultural differences, and manipulation from within nearly caused them to collapse. The war spread across multiple locations, including both the mortal world and the ancient lands tied to the gods. The battles were coordinated, with demigods and gods working together to defeat each giant. As before, neither side could win alone. Every victory required direct cooperation. The final stage of the war centered on preventing Gaia from fully rising. If she awakened completely, stopping her would become nearly impossible. The demigods managed to defeat the giants and disrupt the process long enough to weaken her. Gaia was ultimately defeated shortly after emerging, preventing total destruction. The outcome avoided complete annihilation, but it came dangerously close. The alliance between Greek and Roman demigods proved necessary, but also fragile. Without it, the war would have been lost. The threat was stopped, but not because the world was stable. Because for once, everyone fought on the same side, and the moment that unity broke, everything almost fell apart again. The Roman-Greek conflict, the war that nearly destroyed the demigods. The Roman-Greek conflict began through manipulation. After the events of the Second Titan War, the Greek and Roman camps still operated as separate forces. Camp Half-Blood followed Greek traditions, while Camp Jupiter operated under Roman discipline and structure. Both sides served the same gods but in different forms, with no trust between them. This tension was exploited by Octavian. As an augur of Camp Jupiter, Octavian used prophecy and influence to push the Romans toward war. He framed the Greeks as a threat and convinced the Roman camp that attacking was necessary to protect their future. At the same time, misunderstandings and poor communication escalated the situation. Incidents were misinterpreted, alliances were questioned, and suspicion replaced cooperation. What began as tension turned into preparation for open conflict. The situation reached its peak when Camp Jupiter launched an attack on Camp Half-Blood. Roman forces advanced with siege weapons, fully prepared for war. This was not a small conflict. It was two trained demigod armies, each capable of defeating monsters and titans, now turning on each other. The battle was close to becoming irreversible. Both sides had the capability to inflict lasting damage, and once it began, stopping it would have been difficult. The only reason it did not escalate further was intervention and timing. Key individuals exposed the manipulation behind the conflict, and the larger threat of Gaia forced both sides to reconsider their priorities. The conflict ended before total destruction, but it revealed a critical weakness. The greatest threat to demigods was not always external. It could come from within, through division, misinformation, and leadership that prioritize power over stability. The alliance between the camps was restored, but the trust was fragile. The same divisions that nearly caused the war were still present, only temporarily suppressed. The war didn't happen the way it was planned, but it came close enough to show how easily it could. Gods versus Typhon. The war the gods couldn't handle alone. The conflict with Typhon began during the Second Titan War, but it functioned as a separate crisis happening at the same time. Typhon was not a titan or a giant. He was something older and more destructive, often described as the most powerful monster in Greek mythology. When he rose, he did not target a single location. He moved across the country, leaving destruction on a massive scale. The Olympian gods were forced to confront him directly. This created a critical problem. While Typhon advanced, nearly all of the major gods left Olympus to stop him. Zeus, Poseidon, and the rest of the Olympians engaged him in a prolonged battle that stretched across multiple states. The scale of this fight was far beyond anything demigods could handle, but this meant Olympus was left unprotected. At the exact same time, Kronos launched his attack on Manhattan. With the gods absent, the defense of Olympus fell entirely to demigods. This split the war into two fronts. The gods were fighting a force they struggled to contain, while demigods were left to stop Kronos without them. The battle against Typhon was not a clean victory. The gods were overwhelmed and forced into retreat multiple times. It required coordination, persistence, and eventually the intervention of nature itself, including the power of the wind gods, to finally bring Typhon down. The outcome showed a clear limitation. Even at full strength, the Olympians could not easily defeat certain threats. Typhon forced them into a defensive position and pulled them away from Olympus at the worst possible time. This created the conditions that allowed Kronos to come close to victory. The gods won their battle, but while they were fighting it, they almost lost everything else that mattered. There's still plenty more in this world you haven't seen yet. Click the video on screen to dig further.